we've got
a doggy.
We've got the doggy woggy here.
Doggy woggy.
We've got doggy woggy.
Hi, doggy woggy.
We've got one child asleep.
One monitor.
One monitor there. Child asleep there.
Two
and
monitors.
Another one there. Child asleep there.
And a mama that needs to sleep.
That's right. And a doggy woggy. Hey guys, welcome back to the next Brainbook vlog. This one's going to be at home, and I've got my wife here, Dr. Sahar Jahanian. She is a GP in Kingston, and the reason why we're doing this video is because after the Surgeon Family Life video, there were loads of people that were asking how Sahar coped with being married to a surgeon and my schedule and so on and so forth. So went on Instagram and asked people to send in some questions. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into the questions, and Sahar's going to tell you all about how bad it is living with me. The first one we've got from Stephanie Maria is it hard to start a family because a surgeon is always away from home, mainly to have kids? So what do you think?
Well, obviously not, because we've got two, but it is a struggle. It takes a lot of juggling and a lot of communication, I think. But yeah, I don't think we would manage more than two. I think one was probably just about right for us.
I think so, yeah. So we've got a 3.5-year-old who's at nursery now, and we've got a 7.5 month old who's had a couple of problems since birth, so it's been a little bit more difficult than anticipated. Yeah, stressful.
Hence why it's taken us so long to do the video.
Yeah. Do you think it's do you think me being more away from home makes it more difficult?
Yes, I think inevitably it does. A lot of evenings I'm on my own putting the kids to sleep, which I think is quite hard. You know, there's no kind of daddy to come and give them bath time and put one to sleep while I deal with the other. So it takes a lot of juggling.
But I do get home for bath time some nights.
Some nights, maybe once a week.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think if you communicate well, it's doable. I mean, they all do it, but it doesn't mean that it's easy, I think.
By they, she means surgeons, the enemy. Right, so let's move on to Ray95. How often do you need to work around his schedule, as in my schedule, and vice versa?
Everything revolves around Alex's schedule. Everything. If we get invited to birthdays, weddings, parties, it's let me check with Alex, let me check his rota, let me wait for him. Holidays, absolutely everything has to revolve around his rota, which has just become life for us. And everyone kind of knows, all our friends and family know that, you know, the minute they ask us about anything, I'm not going to be able to give them an answer until I've heard back from him.
But just the point is, that's not just because I'm a surgeon. That's probably quite true for a lot of hospital doctors in general.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But I think it's a lot harder because you guys do longer on calls. Then it's not just a night shift, it's a 24-hour on call. So that kind of blocks up 2 days. So you can't really plan anything for the day that he gets home, and you can't really plan anything for the day that he's obviously on call.
Sartaj765 on Instagram says, do you feel he is busier than you?
Oh, what a question. No. No. I think we're busy in different ways. I think I manage the entire household, and everything that comes with the household and the kids. And on top of work when I'm working, but obviously at the moment I'm on maternity. Whereas he's obviously a lot busier with work and, you know, projects and Brainbook and everything else that he's doing. So I think both of us are probably just as busy as each other, but in different ways.
Yeah.
We manage completely different things. So I try and deal with everything in the house to kind of alleviate a bit of that stress from him.
Yeah.
So that he doesn't have to deal with that. So when he's home, he can actually spend time with the kids.
Yeah.
But I don't think just because of his job, you can say that he's busier than me.
Here's a really interesting one from Arjen Yigit on Instagram. Do you wish you married someone who didn't work in the medical sector?
Ironically, I always said I'd never marry a doctor. But yeah, here we are.
Here we are. Absolutely.
So No, because I think the honest truth is no, because then I wouldn't have met Alex, obviously. But I think it is hard, and I think it's even harder for people who aren't both doctors, who haven't both been through the on-calls and the stress and the ups and downs of being a doctor. I think it's very hard to understand the lifestyle of a doctor if you haven't been one.
Laranal Fan on Instagram is asking, how do you maintain a healthy relationship with a hectic schedule?
I mean, I think once we've got Alex's rota, I think we tend to try and do something, and that's not always going out, because obviously we've got a baby and it's quite hard because we're tired all the time. Whether that be just kind of binge watching something on Netflix, or watching something, a documentary or a series or something, we try and do that at least kind of once or twice a week. And it gives us an opportunity to kind of have a chat once the kids are asleep and just kind of communicate, because during the week I think when we're both working we don't actually speak a lot, I don't think, because I'm really busy at work, so I generally don't have time apart from to check on the kids. You know, with his work it's impossible to kind of have a chat.
Shelly Mom 3 on Instagram says, how does she balance it all, and does she work outside the home too? So you're on maternity leave at the moment, but
normally I am working, so I work about 4 days a week as a GP. It's hard balancing everything, especially because most of the time I feel like a single mother. But I think it helps the fact that I'm very, very OCD and very organised, which I think Alex needs as well, because I tend to just organise everything without even telling him.
Absolutely.
Just kind of, I just get on and do stuff, and I think you have to be, otherwise I think everything will just start falling apart around you. So I tend to be, his frontal lobe, but also his kind of diary, in terms of we need to go here on this day, we need to do this on this day, you need to sign this paper, you need to do this, you need to do that, and he just kind of does it. I think if you're going to balance everything and kind of make everything work, especially with such busy schedules, you just have to plan ahead, which is what I tend to do. You know, Mondays I've got to do this. Tuesday, you know, once the kids are asleep, I'm getting on with stuff. So there is no rest for the wicked.
Absolutely, as they say. Yeah, and I suppose that leads us nicely on to Alina I.O. On Instagram. How do you support each other when dealing with bad situations in surgery? I've had some pretty bad ones recently.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, there's not really much I can say. So when he's on call and he's had a really bad on call, I mean, like I said, we don't really speak when he's on call or operating because there's just no time. But when he does get home, you know, with the situations that he finds himself in and dealing with, there's not really much you can say to them. The horrific injuries and the deaths and things like that. So, you know, I can't say anything to make it better, but I just let him rant, basically. I just let him get it all out, and before he goes to sleep, most importantly. Because then otherwise he'll be awake thinking about it the entire time. I think it's the nature of their job, and I think that it's a shame that surgeons in general don't, especially ones that deal with trauma, don't get a lot more support in terms of like counselling and things when dealing with a lot of the situations that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and I think that's seriously lacking. But I think it's important that every one of them kind of has an outlet, because I think if you don't, I think that's where it can get quite dangerous, and it can get quite, you know, you start kind of tiptoeing along the lines of breakdown and kind of burnout.
I think before, when I was, I'm still a junior doctor now, I'm still a trainee, but when I was a lot more junior and I was a lot newer to this, I could deal with things a lot better. But the problem was I always used to just internalize things, and then you can only internalize stuff for so long before it just erupts in a bad way. And whether that's, you know, breaking down or getting, you know, passive aggressive or sarcastic or whatever, it's not good. And I think over time, Sahar will notice if I come back from a shift and I'm more quiet or more withdrawn than usual, and she'll just kind of give me space.
I force it out of him.
Well,
basically.
she'll give me space to begin with and
Yeah.
wait, and then if it doesn't come out, then she'll force me to talk to her.
Yeah.
And you feel a million times better once you've talked through it.
Yeah.
Kai Tian, that's Gwen. Not a question, but your wife is gorgeous. Alex, you lucky man. Yes, I know. Thank you very much. I'm very lucky to have you.
Yeah. Right.
Future Doc YH asks, how did you guys meet?
Funny story. So it was first day of med school, actually. It was obviously Alex's first day in South London as well, because he looked absolutely mortified.
We trained at St George's.
Yeah, so we both trained at St George's, so we were both medical students together. He looked terrified standing outside the medical school. I was with a few people that I knew at the time, looked over to him and thought, he needs a friend. So for the first time in my life, I went up to a stranger, despite what I've been told. And I basically befriended him.
Yes.
And took him under my wing in South London.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Brighton. My mum was a single mum, and we moved up to Wimbledon to live there. And at the time, I didn't really want to do medicine, which I will talk about another time. So when I started med school, it really hit me. I'd moved town to a massive city. I'd started doing something I wasn't sure I wanted to do, and it just felt really isolating. And Sahar really helps me, actually, because I just felt like I had no friends and that I'd never get through it. And we got through things together, and here we are, married with 2 kids, quite a long time later.
2005.
That was, yeah. And
Yeah.
It's, 2019.
So 14 years ago.
Wow, 14 years ago.
Yeah.
So Michael Helly asks a really good question, actually. How would you have managed if your job took either of you to a totally different geography?
I mean, inevitably, that's something that easily could have happened, just because of the nature of the training program for neurosurgeons.
And just doctors in general.
And doctors in general, yeah. I mean, for the first 2 years of our relationship when we were engaged, actually, Alex was in Cambridge and I was in London. So we were having a very long distance relationship, which was fine, but
to an extent.
Yeah, obviously.
We made it work, but it was tough.
Yeah.
It was really tough.
But I think it would be very hard. I think it would be doable, but I think it would be very hard, especially because I spend a lot of time on my own with the kids, as I said before, and we get a lot of support, luckily, from our parents.
Yeah.
In terms of babysitting, looking after the kids when I'm working. So I think in that aspect, it would be very, very hard.
Yeah.
Because genuinely, I don't know what we would do without them. We're very, very blessed to have them. But like I said, I think, if that was the case, you just have to make it work.
Yeah.
No matter what, because at the end of the day, you're married and, you have to stick it out.
Maria Volcanes from Venezuela, hi to you too. Hopefully we've answered your question about what it's like to live with a surgical resident. Amigdan, so this is probably going to be the last question. Would it have been better for her if you pursued a different specialty? Honestly?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. Would it be better for me if it was my choice? Probably, yeah. I mean, if he'd been a GP, for example, and we were both GPs, then yes, I'd see him more. The kids would see him more. We'd spend a lot more time together. But the one thing that I never wanted him to sacrifice was his career. I think when we first got together, I think it helped the fact that we were both students together and we kind of went through our junior years and F1, F2 together. And I always knew that Alex wanted to do neurosurgery. It was the only reason he agreed to go to med school, because he didn't want to do anything else. And I knew how challenging it would be, and I knew how hard it would be if we stayed together. But I think at the end of it, I always said to him, look, I want you to do what will make you happy, because I would never want him to sacrifice neurosurgery, which is what he loves, to do a job that he just hates. Because what's the point? You spend most of your time and most of your life actually at work.
Yeah, all of your life, right? As a doctor.
Yeah. So actually, what's the point of doing something that you hate? Because you're just going to be miserable all the time. And, you know, I said to him, there's certain things that I will expect from you in terms of family and being a husband and things like that. But that fits around his work and that fits around his job. So, and they're realistic expectations rather than kind of expecting him to be home at 5 o'clock every evening, for example. Yeah. I think, you know, if I'd chosen, then yeah, but I would never make him change. I would never let him change, actually. And I think when in the other video, I think you spoke about how you tried to get into neurosurgery a few times and didn't get it the first time or the second time. And actually, you know, you were on the brink of giving up and thinking, actually, you know, I'm never going to be good enough. I'm never going to be able to get it. And I didn't let him give up. I just said, absolutely not. Even though deep down, I was like, it'd make my life so much easier.
Yeah.
I didn't let him. I literally nagged him and nagged him and nagged him and nagged him until he applied a third time and he got a fellowship and just went from there.
I got my training number, yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of what makes us work, because I know how much he loves his job. And despite how hard it is for us, I think I want him to be happy more than anything, really.
Oh, that's sweet. I want you to be happy too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Oh, God. Anyway, I hope for those of you that wanted this video, I hope it was helpful and I hope it gave you some answers to your questions. Thanks a lot to my wife Sahar for doing this video. I've been nagging her to do it for a little while now and finally got the time.
Well, so, both kids are asleep at the same time.
Yeah, they'll probably wake up in a minute.
We're winning.
So, yeah, absolutely. So if you like this, so if you've got any more questions you want to ask her, you can pop them down below in the comments section on YouTube or fire off a message on Instagram or Twitter, whatever. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. See you next time for the next Brainbook video.
Bye.
Bye. Do you feel he's busier than you? Says Sartaj.
No.
Whatever.
At least he hands over his bleep. I never hand over my bleep. No one ever takes my shift, ever.
All right, mate, calm down. All right, let's do this properly now. Such idiots we are.